Hi, this is John Wren, and this is the Startup Show. We're here each Friday at 10 a.m. or so, depending on how long it takes us to get logged in. Google Plus was a bit of a problem this morning, but it's probably more operator error than anything else. Glad to be with you. We talk about startup here each week. If you're starting in a new direction with your work, starting a project or a campaign, starting a new career, a new job, a new business, we'd love you to join us. And each week we have guests on. We're going to start doing tryouts for guests. That will happen each Friday afternoon at 2 p.m. at Panera Bread Cafe, 13th and Grant, just a block from the Capitol. We are sponsored by the Small Business Chamber of Commerce, and we have an Idea Cafe startup workshop there at Panera each Friday at 2 o'clock, and we're going to require guests to come to that before we put them on the air here, and you'll understand why when you come. So join us this afternoon if you can, 2 p.m. Panera Bread Cafe, 13th and Grant, just a block from the Capitol. And we talk about startup there, but we're face-to-face, and I'll tell you more about that at the end of the show and why we've made this change in policy. Now, the Small Business Chamber cooperates with local chambers to try to help provide more real help to startups and very small businesses, more real help to people who are starting in a new direction with their career. Local chambers, local community newspapers, local service clubs. We try to tie into the community and complement what they're doing by telling the real story about startup in America. We kind of are turning into a planned economy. That's not what built this country, and we talk about the alternative. So today we're going to talk about several different topics. Frank Sinatra, what he tells us about startup, and comparing Frank to an article in Inc. magazine about founders. Is it on track or not? Do we want to classify founders? Can we do that? What would Steve Jobs' classification be? So if you want to know about that, you can go to our Facebook page. We posted the link to the Inc. magazine article. If you go to Facebook and just search on Small Business Chamber, it should come right up. Another way to get information about us, just Google search or Bing search Denver Idea Cafe. Denver Idea Cafe. Idea is all capital letters, IDEA, and you'll understand that after you come to our startup workshop that we have here in Denver. And we encourage people to come to that, not just to try out for this show, but also to come and see if it's something you'd like to help facilitate with your own local chamber, your own local community newspaper. We want to help people do that over the next 12 months or so. And if you'd like to be one of those people, give us a call or just show up, and more information about that at the very end of the show. Now, the other topics we'd like to try to squeeze in, if we have time, is the Basalt Chamber of Commerce. They're doing some really good work in Basalt, and compare them to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and what they've got coming up that is designed, I believe, to help small business. And finally, how much should you blog? How much should you be online posting things? It was an article about that. What did you make of it? And again, these articles that I mentioned are always posted on our Facebook page. Go to Facebook and just search on Small Business Chamber of Commerce, Inc. Sometimes you have to put in the full thing to get it to come up, but we are there and these things are posted. And also, this show is something you can access through that site or my site, www.johnwren.com, JOHNWREN.com. So let's get started. We got a lot to cover. Frank Sinatra, I have picked up a book. I happened by a pile of books that were given away by the family. Someone had died, and this book had been given to them as a graduation gift. Why Sinatra Matters. Pete Hamill's a terrific writer. I've read other things of his. I picked it up and it's been laying around. I had a birthday inspiration, somebody to give it to, and there's this book really untouched. And I thought, well, yeah, should I give this to this person? And on the way to their get together yesterday, I read it quickly and was profoundly touched, partly because my mom passed away September 20th. God rest her soul. She had a long happy, productive life. For the most part, she had struggles, but she was very resilient. She was the best example I know of. If it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. She was a very strong woman, had a tough childhood, as did my dad. And one of the things I learned about her is that Frank Sinatra was very important to her. In her notebook she carried in her senior year, all through it was the title of Frank Sinatra's first hit. And he was with Jimmy Dorsey, and this song took off. And the title of it, that there are such things. And it's about having a dream and working towards it. My mom and dad both did that all of their life. This little book, Pete Hamill read through it quickly. And, you know, Sinatra came from a tough background. And he had this idea that he could be successful and kept after it. And he had tremendous personal problems. So, you know, I did it my way, I think is like 180 degrees off target. But he gave us some good examples and some bad examples. His life was all out in the public square, and especially with someone like Pete Hamill, who really dug into it. Why Sinatra matters is because he really, through some of his songs, told the story of the American dream. These poor people that had an idea and they went for it. They didn't spend their time doing market research. They didn't spend their time writing strategic plans or raising money. They just got after it and created a revenue stream. And that's the way businesses really start. If they didn't, we should have a planned economy. You know, we fought the Cold War for decades. We win it, and then we sort of shift to the planned economy. If you look at what the Small Business Administration says about startup, it's outrageous. I say I'm a recovering MBA because a lot of what I learned in graduate business school, I've had to overcome to be actually helpful to people who are starting something new. So if that's you, tune in here each week. We'll try to give you some real information that you can use to try to help move in the direction of your dreams. And we want to encourage these live face-to-face workshops because there's just so much you can do over the media like this. You know, it kind of creates the illusion of community, but it's really not. You need to get together face to face. In Denver, whether you're here all the time or maybe you're traveling through Colorado, going up to a ski trip, plan part of your trip to stop in Panera Bread Cafe, 13th and Grant, just a block from the state capitol. I'm there from 2 to 3:30 each Friday afternoon, and we have an Idea Cafe startup workshop that acts as sort of the model for the other groups. If you'll come, look at it, experience it, and you want to help starting wherever you are in cooperation with your local chamber and others, and then I would certainly be privileged to help you with that. So Frank Sinatra matters because if you read about his life, you can see how things actually happen in this country. And now you apply that to your situation, which is different. You know, businesses are like snowflakes. You know, it's a snowflake, but there's a million different ways it goes. And I've written a little book, Daring Mighty Things, the simplest way to start your first or next new business. It was endorsed by Dr. Amar Bahidi, who I have the utmost respect for. His book, The Origin and Evolution of New Businesses, was groundbreaking. It's led to Sarah Sarathvarthy's work recently, Ken Schlesinger, and Just Start. He was the one that opened the window on startup at the same time I was. I found his book on, prior to the World Wide Web, just a bulletin board. It was in the current issue of Harvard Business Review, and it was almost like a divine intervention because I had just decided I was going to stop talking about startup if I couldn't find any theoretical support for the things that I was talking about. Found Dr. Bahidi's book, liked it, wrote my book, he endorsed it, and I've been working with startups ever since. And at the end of the show, we'll talk more about how you and I can connect, and I can help you either start a group, help you start your business, or pass you on to someone else who might be able to be a better mentor for you where you are right now. The Basalt Chamber, I also posted a link to their site this morning. They posted a promotional item for a business broker who I don't know from Adam, but I thought it was a clever way the Basalt Chamber is serving their members. And take a look at that. It's on our Facebook page. You know, small chambers of commerce can be tremendously helpful or tremendously harmful. And if we get more people involved in them, they can't help but improve their performance. sometimes there's too many chambers of commerce. Here in Denver, we have something like 38 chambers of commerce the last time I counted them. That helps everybody but the startup and the small business. Large businesses can have different people go to different groups. They love it that way. But for the little guy, it's not so helpful. So for the sake of the little guy, I think we need to put on our thinking caps and say, what can we do as chambers here to maybe cooperate and actually help more with startup? Now, the SBA has come in because they are so divided and really propagated the faith of planned business, careful market research, formal market research, careful strategic planning. You have business plan competitions. This outfit in St. Louis has just poured gasoline on the fire. Marion Labs was started by a real entrepreneur out of the trunk of his car. No market research, no plan. But his multi-millions then was used by his widow to start something that has so far done a lot of harm. If you look at the slowdown in startups and slowdown now in businesses from 10 to 100 employees, which is the bedrock of our political system, it gives people enough time, free time, that they can get away and be an active citizen, and that's drying up. And so this is a big problem. I'm doing in my own crude way what I can to address it, to try to help preserve the opportunity that my father had for my grandkids. And if you and I don't work together, that's just not going to happen. It's a critical point in time. Now, elections are important. And Dwight Eisenhower said that every citizen needs to be a part-time politician. So read the newspaper and vote, yes. But when you have the free time, this is probably before you have small children or after the children are out on their own. Maybe you're retired and you have free time now. Maybe you're in school. You can become an active citizen. But when you have the time, you need to participate in Colorado in our caucus system. And I believe it is the very best chance for the common person, the average ordinary guy or gal, to get elected to public office. If it's not for the caucus system, it just takes even more money to win an election. But if you could act even one of the two major political parties, work your way up, it doesn't happen overnight, but if you're patient, by the time you've got the free time to run, or maybe it's immediate. If you're young, you haven't had kids yet, you are ready to run now, it can work to your advantage maybe slightly more quickly, but you do have to get in, get involved, become involved in your political organization, a club, Young Democrats, Young Republicans, College Republicans, whatever, the women's groups, the men's groups. There are all kinds of small groups that you can get involved, or get involved in a candidate's campaign. Now in Denver, there's a unique opportunity right now. There's a ballot being mailed out almost as we speak. People will be getting that, and in some districts, there's no competition yet. And one of those races is the mayor's race. There's a straw man running, but you wouldn't really say he's a real candidate. I don't think. Excuse me, come to our meeting at 2:00 this afternoon if that's you. I'll apologize to you personally. Maybe I'm not giving you enough credence, but anyone can become a write-in candidate. You need to go to the Denver Election Commission, let them know that you're running. It's a very simple affidavit. You fill it out, and then use social media to try to encourage your friends to vote for you. If enough people would do that, if it could start a landslide of people becoming write-in candidates, it's possible that Mayor Hancock's initial vote could be less than 50%. If it's 50% minus one vote, it becomes a runoff situation. And the top two vote getters would be in a runoff. That could be you. So take a look at, just Google Denver Election Commission. Look at what they've got on site. They've got the form. You can fill it out, then take it down to them, and then let your friends know what you've done on social media. And let's run a write-in campaign as many different ways as we can. Or take one candidate and get behind them. If you see someone doing it, if you get a Facebook post or an email, a text from one of your friends and they're doing this, pass it along. Social media has changed the face of politics, and this could be a good chance with the mayor's race, some uncontested council seats, and so forth. And the Denver Election Commission has a terrific website. Spend a couple of hours on it. You can make sure you conform with what they're asking for. And now this is not in any way political. This is just strictly educational. I'm trying to let you know of some of the options that are out there. For some reason, the newspapers don't do a good job of covering the option of write-in candidate. I've called the Denver Post, the Colorado Statesman newspaper, which has no ownership. Jody has passed the torch, and what a great job she did for year after year after year. And I think it's possibly going to get even better. We'll see. But I've done what I can to encourage the local paper. We'll see what happens over the weekend. Maybe some of them will be writing stories. But one of the reasons to participate in the political party of your choice, and the two-party system sometimes gets criticized. My libertarian friends, Green Party friends, people like that say, well, those two parties are just the same. Well, they're supposed to be. They're competing. And so what they do is go for and I think that's a great moderating influence on our society, because you have to win the election. You can't get so far out on the limb and dictate terms, or you're not going to win. And I believe we're now the option alternative to that is a multi-party system, and you can see how well that works in other places that have it. It becomes all backroom deals, smoke-filled rooms. But we have a system, especially here in Colorado, because the thing that really made the two-party system work incredibly well is our system for going to local neighborhood meetings and electing representatives that go to the nominating caucuses and put people on the ballot. Now, the problem is some candidates now have got that mixed up. It used to be people like Ralph Cole would just participate in the process, and he'd be selected as a candidate, and he wouldn't be out trying to pack the caucus. Now you get people that are ambitious, and they pack the caucus and try to get their people to the caucus, not let anybody else know about it. So we're at Small Business Chamber of Commerce, as an educational activity, we're encouraging people to participate just to educate their neighbors about how the system works. And we're hoping that local chambers will pick this up. It used to be local chambers did a much better job of this kind of thing. Now they say, well, we don't get involved in politics. Well, do you get involved in education? Because we're not talking about endorsing candidates. We're just trying to teach people how the system works. It used to be the U.S. Chamber put out action class in practical politics. My neighbor, Lyle Lindesmith, used that material for years to do breakfast and lunch meetings through local chambers and help people understand how the system worked. It used to be that the League of Women Voters did that kind of thing. But now they're also concerned with issues and packing caucuses for candidates that they want. And they demonize the other party, whether you're a Republican or Democrat. Instead of talking about the good on your side, you end up yelling at the other side and putting them down. I had a friend, he ran as a candidate as a Republican, then ran as a Democrat, as did I. And I said, so what'd you think? And he says, well, they're really wonderful people in both parties. But the only thing that changes is that when you're a Republican, all you hear is how bad the Democrats are. And then when you're a Democrat, all you hear is how bad the Republicans are. And, I think these people on both sides are good people. And that's true. That's the way it's supposed to be. But we've learned from the media just to be critical. And maybe that's what I'm doing now. I'm criticizing the system. And I don't want to use the hammer. I want to use the torch, or vice versa. I don't want to tear down. I want to build up. I want to try to get more average, ordinary people involved in a small way, so when they have the time available, they can, they become the party's obvious choice because they've been involved for a little bit. They read the newspaper and vote, yes, but every 2 years they show up for about a 1-hour meeting in their neighborhood and help select representative to go to the nominating assembly, and they don't get their feelings hurt if they're not the one that goes. It's a little bit like the jury system. We're not all picked every week to go to the jury. The caucus system is like that for the two major political parties. Now, let's not shut out other people that want to run other ways. If somebody really wants to build their own campaign organization, so be it. But don't run through the caucus system. Just pass your petitions, that's allowed. Run your ads, that's allowed. Doesn't negate that choice, but it provides an alternative for the average ordinary person that doesn't have the resources that the rich and powerful do. So it levels the playing field, and as a result, we get, I believe, much better local government. Now, is it perfect? No, because we're still dealing with people, but it's, you know, it's the worst system in all the world except for all the rest. There are flaws, there are difficulties, and it's a relay race. We have to pass the torch one generation from another, and it needs your help. Now, from a business standpoint, why you should get involved is because it is the best networking opportunity that you can imagine. You'll meet people, you become active in the political party of your choice, and you meet people you never, ever would otherwise. Now, if you say you don't want to be the true believer, both parties have their good points and their bad points, you may want to be an unaffiliated voter. And if you do, help educate the people that go to the two caucuses. You know, you don't have to just jump into one of the little fragmented parties and listen to their diatribes. They tend to be much more strident, harsh, you know, and for some people, I'm glad they're around. They provide leavening for the bread. I think they do light it up, and that's good, but one of the two major candidates is going to win. And the two major candidates are the result of a process that's open to the average ordinary person, much more so than if it's one of these third-party candidates like Ross Perot. I mean, he was a good example of the problem with an aggressive third-party candidate that really raises a lot of money or spends his own like Ross did. He usually gives the election to the person he would least like to see get elected himself. But I will say this, no matter what you do in one of the major parties, you're going to meet people it would take years to get an acquaintance with any other way. And it's okay to switch parties. I mean, it's not my church. It's not that big of a decision. So if you've been a Democrat and you're unhappy, become a Republican or vice versa. And yeah, I've thought, you know, we have these term limits that don't really work very well. I think the lobbyists like it because, you know, it minimizes the number of people that actually know what they're doing. So I'm not sure that term limitations are really a good idea. So I say this a bit tongue-in-cheek, but I thought maybe we should have party limitations. You can only be in one political party for, let's say, 10 years. So if you're a Democrat, you've become precinct committee person, you have to get out of the way and let somebody else do it. Now, those people consistently say, well, nobody else wants to do it. Well, that's because you're not cultivating them. And they know you want to just keep doing it so you can get your friends there. So, you know, some people hold themselves out as these saints because they've done it year after year after year. They are, if they've done what my neighbor Lyle Lindesmith did, and they go out and they now start bringing other people into the process. And so it's a networking opportunity. It's a way to, and it is from a religious standpoint, you know, my religious leader 2,000 years ago said we're supposed to actually like our neighbors, love our neighbors, care for them. And this is the best way to meet our neighbors. We all tend to cocoon, stay in our own little world. I'm as big of an offender as anybody. I'm a total hypocrite in this area, but I'm hopefully going to change that over the next bit of time. I've said that before. It's hard to do, but this caucus system forces us to gather with neighbors. There's 6,000 meetings across Colorado coming up again in 2016. So get ready. And the broadcast is over. So even though we started late, it ended a minute early, unless, oh no, I guess I get the chance to push the button here. So let me just wrap up this way. The Small Business Chamber of Commerce would like to help you do more good work. Watch this show each Friday at 10 a.m. It's a half-hour show. If you want to be on the show, you can come to the Idea Cafe Startup Workshop at Panera Bread, 13th and Grant, 2 to 3:30 each Friday afternoon. No one's on the show as a guest until they've been to that. So come this afternoon, 2 o'clock, Panera Bread, 13th and Grant here in Denver, just a block from the Capitol. And we have many other activities. You can find out about them on www.smallbizchamber.org, or or give me a call anytime if you've got a question you'd like us to talk about on the show, or if for any other reason we can be helpful to you. Give us a call, 303-861-1447. It's 303-861-1447. You know, this life, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, sometimes I go either way on this question, but it is a truth, really, is this life is very short. So let's go get started. Thanks for watching.